Well, hello everybody. Ever have too much milk, whole milk, or maybe the date's getting ready to run out on your milk? Well, we've got a solution for that. You can make your own cottage cheese. It's really simple to do. And when you make your cottage cheese, you can substitute your cottage cheese, put it in recipes that call for ricotta cheese, because ricotta cheese is a little pricey to me, I think. But yeah, if you've got plenty of milk and you need cottage cheese, you can do this. Or like I say, if you've got milk that's getting ready to run out of date, but it's still fine, you can go ahead and use that milk to make your cottage cheese. And you can store your cottage cheese for about 7 days after you make it. And you can use it in lasagna recipes, all type of recipes that call for ricotta cheese. Just substitute it with your cottage cheese that calls for ricotta. You can substitute with ricotta cheese. So we're going to fill our pot with our milk. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on while I finish filling it up. Because we've got to bring this up to about 180 degrees, which is going to be right at boiling. And this, I think, makes about 3 cups of cottage cheese. And it'll take a few minutes for it to boil. So what we're going to do in the meantime is find you a bowl, a colander, and a large bowl that you can put underneath. Because we're going to have to drain our mixture after we finish this process. But we got to bring it to a boil first. And we don't want it to actually boil. We want it just under boiling. And I don't have a thermometer, a food thermometer, so I'm going to have to just guess at it. When it starts getting foamy on top and just to the point where it's going to boil, then you have to turn it off. And I've been meaning to buy a food thermometer, and I just never have. I never did do that. But you might want to stir your milk pretty constantly. You don't want your milk to scorch or burn in the bottom. But you want to pretty often stir it while it's heating up, because like I said, you don't want your milk to burn or scorch. And I've got it on like medium heat. It's going to take that milk a while to heat up because it was cold. You know, it was in the refrigerator, so. I've got to get me a bottle of water here. I've been getting kind of thirsty. But if you have a dish, you know, that you need cottage cheese, or you need your ricotta cheese, and say you don't want to run to the store but you got some milk, you can make yourself some cottage cheese right quick and use your cottage cheese in your recipe instead of your use your cottage cheese in the recipe instead of ricotta cheese. And all you need for this recipe is a gallon of milk, 3/4 cup white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, either one. If you use apple cider vinegar, I think you got to put something else. Let's see. Now, my recipe calls just for white vinegar. You'll need just plain salt, and you'll need about 3 tablespoons of heavy cream. If, when we get it made, you want a creamy cottage cheese, but you can determine that after you get your cottage cheese made. But like I said, you will need your colander and a bowl to put it in to catch the liquid when we take it out. And you'll need a tea towel or double layered cheesecloth. I don't have cheesecloth, but I've got the tea towel, so I'm just going to use my tea towel. Just line your colander with it like that and set it aside because we'll use that later. You'll need a thick bottom pan, or the thickest one you've got. And I meant to put the pie pan underneath and I forgot. But it always helps to put a flat pie pan under your pot to help evenly distribute the heat. And I didn't watch the time, but I've been doing this for about 5 minutes maybe. So 4:30 or so. I should have set my timer and I forgot. Let me get the timer. It's been a few minutes, so I'm gonna set it for about 25 minutes. Well, that's afterwards. We don't need to do that now. After we bring it to a boil and we add our vinegars, when we need to set it for 30 minutes covered. Like I said, I always say I'm going to buy a thermometer, and I just never do. I've always cooked without a thermometer, so and then most meat recipes call for using a thermometer, and I never use one. I just go by timing and what my meat looks like. Don't know how long it takes to boil since it started from a really cold gallon of milk. But we really need to bring it to the boiling point. I've definitely got a pot full here. I didn't realize that gallon would fill up the pot so full, but that's okay. It's just kind of a waiting game. Gotta wait till it just about comes to boiling. Still pretty cold, so it's going to take a while. Starting to get warm, but it's not hot yet because milk on the spatula is not hot yet. And I know this is a slow process, but I wanted you to see that it's not going to be immediate. You just have to bear with it. Keep your spatula handy. Keep stirring it as it heats up. It'll be cottage cheese soon enough. Just feeling to see how hot the pot is, and it's getting pretty hot, so it won't be long. I didn't turn my notifications off. Now, maybe that'll work. I won't get any more sounds coming from my phone. I don't think it'll be much longer now before it'll be right at the boiling point. And I'm showing this you again too because it takes a while for your milk to get to the boiling point. And you don't want to turn the heat off too soon. You don't want to pour your vinegar in too soon or it's not going to curdle the way it's supposed to. You got to bring that milk all the way up to right at the boiling point. When it just starts to boil, then you immediately turn the heat down, and you know that's 180 degrees. Or 190, I don't know which is which, but you want it right to the boiling point. And you can turn your burner up just a little bit. Put it on medium-high. Like I said, it's going to take it a while to get to the boiling point. And you know what the old saying, a watch pot never boils, does it? I think I'll just about have enough room in this pot to put this 3/4 cup of vinegar. But you can see it's a long process to get the milk to boil, or to the boiling point. It's not going to just do it immediately. Pot's getting pretty hot, so I know it's got to be at the boiling point or close to it. Nobody ever said this was a quick thing to do. Well, we'll have it in a minute. I can tell by the sound of the pot that it's just about ready to get to the point of boiling. You can tell when it's just right at the edge of boiling because you'll start getting little air bubbles that'll look like they're coming up from the bottom of the pot and then they'll come up to the top. I've got some bubbles up here at the top right now, but that's from stirring it. It's not from boiling. Starting to get a few around the edges. Now, if you have a thermometer, you know, that's even better. I don't have the thermometer, so I work on what I see. Yeah, it's 190 degrees if you have a thermometer, a cooking thermometer. And that's right at the boiling point. And I think it's just probably pretty close to there. Yeah, I start seeing bubbles that pop up at the top. That means it's right at the boiling point. It's starting to foam at the top a little. There's always tricks if you don't have all the utensils and little gadgets and gizmos to cook with. You know, years and years ago they didn't have cooking thermometers and all that. So they had to come up with a way to figure out the correct temperature of their food. I got some bubbling going around a little bit at the edge, not much. But I want some bubbling to go on in the center, is what I want. Okay, I got the bubbling starting kind of closer to the center, as well as the edges. If you zoom in close, you can see that. But I've started seeing a little bubble activity in the center. So when you see that, you can turn your pot off, add your 3/4 cup vinegar, stir it in. Just stir it in really good. Now my heat is off. I've stirred in my vinegar. I'm going to put a lid on it. And now we're going to set the timer for 30 minutes. I've already got it started, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to have to start it. It's for 30 minutes. And when that alarm comes back, I'll bring you back and we'll see what else we need to do. Okay, our milk is set for 30 minutes after I mixed in the vinegar. So we already had our colander sitting in our bowl. Well, let me do this again. We got our colander in our bowl. We're going to put if you've got just a regular cotton dish towel, that will work. You don't want the fuzzy one, if you could help it. And we're going to dip. We'll put it as close to the pot as I can get it because I don't want it to drip. It is hot. Ooh. Just turning that so the handle of the pot will be turned the other way. That way I can get the bowl closer to avoid a lot of drippage going on here. Okay, I'm going to dip down in here and just dip out my cottage cheese. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? And we're going to put it right in the colander. And let the rest of the liquid drain from the cottage cheese. I know my aunts and uncles, my grandmother did this all the time. Because they had fresh milk right from the dairy cows. They had a farm. So everything that they got to eat and drink was from the farm, basically. I think my grandmother only bought coffee and sugar. Because they even ground their own cornmeal. And I think she did buy her own flour. They didn't grind flour, but they did buy flour. Flour, coffee, and sugar is about the only thing they bought from the store. Everything else was basically produced on the farm. But just keep dipping all that stuff right out of there, and that's all your cottage cheese right there. I think that's really pretty. And that's fresh cottage cheese, y'all. It's not some that's been made and set in the store for a week or two. Trying to get that down in the bottom of the pot. Still dump some way down in the bottom, trying to get it out. think I about got it. And you can keep all of this liquid in the pot. You can add that to soups, gravies even, a lot of stuff. And it has a lot of protein in it because that's your whey from the milk. Ooh, it's pretty hot. Pretty hot, but I'm going to pour some of this back in here because I want it out of my bowl. Because I want it to drain real good. I'm gonna move the camera over some so you can see what I'm doing over here. Now you do need to let that drain real well, but it seems like it's pretty well stopped draining. And I'm going to take my colander and put it in the sink so I don't end up dropping my cheese out of the way. And what I'm going to do is run cold water on my towel. I'm trying to cool my cheese down is what I'm doing. You'll have to hold the end of your towel that's closed. You don't want to turn that loose because if you do, all your cheese is going to go out. All your cottage cheese is going to dump out. But just keep doing that until it feels cold. Your cottage cheese will end up cold. And I kind of like to do this over the sink because all the liquid that drains out now will go in the sink. Now, I've already emptied that bowl, so I don't have anything left in it. I think I've drained that just about enough. But you just want to squeeze the water out of it. And now we're going to dump our cheese ball, if possible, in our bowl without dumping it in the floor. Just like that. And you see our bowl of cottage cheese. Now, I hope you saw all that. I never think to move the camera. Now we're just going to break the cottage cheese apart. And like I said, if it's too dry for you, you can add a 2 or 3 tablespoons of really thick cream. This is also when we're going to put our salt in. I mean, you don't want it too salty, but you might want a little bit of salt in there. One teaspoon of salt is what it calls for. So I added that much, and I'm going to stir it. Then I'm going to add some more to make it about a teaspoon. I squeezed out all of the liquid from the cottage cheese, so I'm just adding liquid back to it with a little bit of half and half, along with my sour cream. Now you don't have to squeeze all of yours out if you don't want to. It's up to you. And I'm just adding enough to make it just a little bit creamy, not much. If you have heavy cream and you don't squeeze all of the liquid out of your cottage cheese when you rinse it, well, I want it rinsed out because it's basically water that you've left in there. And I'd rather replace it with heavy cream or something to that effect. But there's our cottage cheese, y'all. And it's small curdled cottage cheese. It's not the big one. Let's see how much I got in there. See if I can find a container to put it in. But see, you've got enough that you can use in lasagna. Use it instead of ricotta cheese. Some people like to eat some of it mixed with a little bit of pineapple. But that's about 3 cups of cottage cheese right there. And I gotta taste it. That is really good, y'all. Oh my God, that is so good. That is good cottage cheese. I'm going to be eating that. And you know, that's keto friendly. So, you can basically eat all this stuff you want if you're on a diet. So, there you go. Cottage cheese. And like I said, you can keep that about a week, 7 days in your refrigerator. You don't want to wait till your milk sours. You don't want to use sour milk. But if it's about out of date, getting ready to go out of date, you can certainly use it. Save your milk and have free cottage cheese. So with that, I'm going to wish y'all a good day. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos. I'll see you on my next one. Bye now.